Hi everyone, welcome back to Aidans Railways. Today we're going to have a look at two EFE Rail Class 58 locomotives from Bachmann. Well, this is the EFE Rail 00 gauge 176 scale model of the British Class 58. The Class 58 Coco was designed for heavy freight and earned the name of Bone because of its narrow body and cabs at both ends. The Class 58s were built at Doncaster Works by British Rail Engineering Limited between the years of 1983 and 1987, with a total of 50 of the class being made. The Class 58 weighing in at 130 tonnes, measuring 19.13 metres long, 2.72 metres wide and standing at 3.91 metres high. It had a fuel capacity of 4,480 litres, fitted with a Bachmann engine. It had a maximum speed of 80 miles per hour. Sadly, the Class 58 began to be withdrawn between 1999 and 2002, with many of the class being exported for Europe, notably in Spain, the Netherlands and France. My memories of these locomotives, well, while travelling around the country on holiday and visits to preserved railways, I remember seeing the Class 58s pulling long trains of MGR HAA hoppers on the main line to and from power stations. So, have I owned any models of the Class 58 previously? Well, back in the early 90s, for one of my birthdays, I remember purchasing a Hornby Class 58 in coal sector livery. Although at the time looking like a very nice model, my model was fraught with derailments, buffers falling off and the shell getting very warm, if not even hot, from the motor unit. Purchasing a Class 58 has been something I have thought on and off about for some time. However, recently Bachmann EFE Rail announced the release of this model of the Class 58, and the temptation became too much and I pre-ordered two examples from Durham Trains of Stanley. Well, the two models I chose were the examples in British Rail Railfreight Red Stripe and British Rail Railfreight coal sector liveries. The Red Stripe version having a weathered and worn finish and the coal sector version having a pristine look. Well, this is the box the models come in. If I open the outer box and slide out the inner box, you can see we have the usual ice block plastic packaging. In the bottom of the box there is a service and instruction manual. These models are DCC ready and, as the manual sheet states, will accept a 8-pin DCC decoder. Also shown here is a diagram showing what and where the extra detail on the buffer beam are and where they are located. Inside the manual it also shows DCC chip fitment and a page of components used in the construction of the model and the instructions. So, sliding the outer packaging off, I can now open the inner protective packaging. And as I lift the model out, I can inform you that the model does have quite some considerable weight to it, letting me know that this will quite happily pull a considerable lengthy train of rolling stock. Placed in the bottom of the packaging are two detail packs. One pack has handrails and NEM tension lock couplings, and the other with bogie sides. So there we are, the model is now free to roam on the tracks. A couple of things to note: there are plenty of power pickups on both bogies, and the driving axles are the first and third axles on both bogies, giving 4 axles worth of drive. As you can see, all of the added extra detail for the buffer beams is pre-fitted to the model. The buffers on the buffer beam are spring loaded, but they are plastic buffers fitted. The Paintwork on the model is incredibly good, and all of the print work is incredibly sharp. There is a plethora of extra fitted detail, including pipes, cables and handrails, as well as wipers in the driver's cab. There is a certain amount of extra detail within the cab, including the 2 seats and some of the controls, and this is absolutely begging out to have a crew fitted to it. Having the extra detail pre-fitted to the buffer beams really does look nice. However, it does ask the question whether these are going to get in the way when the actual NEM couplings are fitted. All of the roof detail is incredibly sharp, whether it be moulded or additional pieces, including the grills over the fans, as well as the fan detail hidden behind it. It should also be noted that on the Red Stripe Railfreight liveried model that I have, that the actual roof is weathered and has plenty of exhaust dirt around the exhaust itself. As the camera glides over the top from the front of the locomotive to the rear, you can really see all those extra separately fitted parts fitted to the model. Here's another look at the fans and the grills, and I have to say this is actually the first model that I own which shows this separate detail, and I know that they have been around for a long time now, for many years, at various manufacturers fitting the fans separately and having proper grills as opposed to a moulded imitation grill. You can see from the side view that the model picks out absolutely every single one of the doors along the centre of the loco body. You can see just how sharp the coal sector livery is on the side of the locomotive, as well as the totem for the power station on the centre. This being the pristinely clean model, you can see all of the detail on the bogies themselves. Springs, brakes, steps, the frames themselves. The exterior of the chassis has a plethora of detail, unlike the early 90s 58 model, which was just sort of moulded and imitated along the bottom of the chassis. You can really see how sharp the print is on the High Marnham power station plaque on the side of the locomotive. For all there are a lot of separately fitted handrails on this locomotive, they don't seem to feel as delicate as they actually look. An interesting detail on both of these models are both cab ends. At least one of the cab windows appears to be slid open. You can see the cab seats in there, and they are absolutely begging out to have a crew fitted to them, which I fully intend to do as soon as I can get a hold of the figures. You can see here on the cab side the 58018 and the British Rail arrows. The print is really sharp, although I haven't zoomed in quite so close on the plate printed on just by the running board steps. You can see as the camera comes along the body of the locomotive how pristinely clean, almost outshopped this model looks. I am still debating with myself whether or not to have it lightly weathered or to whether to keep it look as if it had just came out from paint. Running in tandem with the Red Stripe Railfreight liveried 58, I think it could be an interesting comparison between the two paintworks whilst running in tandem. So one of the things I was incredibly impressed with was the running capabilities. As I mentioned before, they have got quite a considerable amount of weight. They have got directional lights fitted, as you can see here. They strobe a bit, but I think that's more to do with my camera, but that's not actually happening in real life. They are incredibly smooth, and the power mechanism is incredibly quiet. Far superior to those early Hornby Class 58 models with the rather primitive motors fitted to them in comparison to today's standards. Like I said, the weight certainly gives me the impression that they're going to be able to haul quite a long train, which is just as well, because since this video was made, the Hornby 2021 range has been announced, and there are a considerable amount of MGR merry-go-round HAA hoppers available. I can tell you now that I have a number ordered and intend to have a fairly reasonably long rake of these models behind these two locomotives. I am planning to run both locomotives in tandem, unless of course the opportunity arises to have a full train behind both models themselves. So there we are. We have the two 58s side by side, and you can see just how worn the Railfreight sign is on the side of the cab there. The exhaust fumes have darkened the roof, and it's looking a bit sorry for itself. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget, if you haven't already subscribed, click on the round button. If you enjoyed this video and you want to watch some more, there's another video at the top of the screen and there's a playlist at the bottom. See you again soon.